Now, what is this pact and what isn't it? So let me be precise to what has actually been signed here, because the coverage has oscillated between treating this as a transformative NATO-style alliance, or what some people have called the Islamic NATO, and dismissing it as purely symbolic. The reality is more nuanced than either, though, as always. This pact establishes a framework for collective security, intelligence sharing, defense, industrial capacity, and energy coordination. Builds on that bilateral agreement that was set between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia in the fall of last year, and it extends it to include Turkey and its considerably more capable, modernized, and defensive manufacturing sectors and military. But moreover, the capabilities each side brings are genuinely complementary. Firstly, Turkey has NATO's second largest military. It has world-class drone technology and battle-tested troops and equipment from its incursions into Syria only a few years ago. And its defense sector deliberately is built to reduce dependency on Western suppliers. Saudi Arabia brings financial muscle, the world's top oil exporter with the resources to fund the pact's development and reduce dependency on American weapon systems. And then there's Pakistan. Critically, uniquely, it brings nuclear weapons. It is the only Muslim-majority nuclear power on the planet, and it is now formally part of a collective deterrence arrangement. Now, whether or not that makes a big difference to some of you who wonders about Pakistan's capabilities or willingness to use nuclear, they have demonstrated their ability to dissuade foreign policy decision-makers in certain actions. But the analytical caveat matters here as well. The pact says an attack on one should be considered an attack on all. Should be. Not necessarily is. So some have put it directly that operational phrasing means the obligation is political and moral, but not automatic and military. This is therefore not Article 5. It is a framework, a signal, a direction of travel, an Article 4.8. Misses the key phrasing, or perhaps the omittance of that key word. Language matters in international relations, and this is as ever a great example of that, if there could be. So what it is not, therefore, this is not a declaration of war against Iran or Israel. The signatories have been very careful not to name either as the target. But nobody in the region is under the illusion, under the impression about the context of which this has been signed. The Gulf states, countries stuck in the middle of what the region has been dominated in the past few years. Then there is something known as the three blocs, and why the binary idea that I mentioned in the opening is kind of dead. For decades, the Middle East was understood as rather binary. Saudi Arabia versus Iran, Sunni versus Shia struggles, America-backed order versus the axis of resistance, if you like. Those binaries shaped every analysis of most conflict in the region. But that binary, in the eyes of many, is now obsolete. The Middle East has effectively three blocs. The first is the Abraham Accords. Israel, UAE, Bahrain, Morocco, aligned with the United States and committed to normalization on terms that have become increasingly difficult to sustain those since October 7th. Then there is the Iranian axis, Iran, Hezbollah, the Houthis, Iraqi militias, those weakened by current wars but not eliminated, and still capable of projecting some degree of force across the region through relevant means, be that through the Strait of Hormuz, Bab el-Mandeb, or so on. But then the third is a more new significant one, this Mecca bloc, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, sitting between these two, wary of both, and explicitly hedging against the United States' unreliability. And so now bound together in this collective security framework that gives it weight that it never previously had.